Hi everyone, my name is Jen and this is Beast Houseplants, where we talk about all things houseland and home design. Welcome back. I am especially excited for today's video, not only because I got to buy a bunch of things, which is always fun, but because it is LECA related. So if you've been watching me, you know that I'm obsessed with LECA and I've had a lot of great success growing my plants in a passive hydroponic system. And because I've had such great success, that's made me really curious and to search for what else I can do to get even better results. So there's two Instagram accounts that I've been following. The first one is a Plant Mint. The second one is Urban Green. I'll make sure to put their handles somewhere on the screen. So Ray and Nige are both based in Australia and they both have hydroponic setups, like fully hydroponic setups. Thank you so much to Ray for answering all of the questions that I had about his setup. It's been immensely helpful. So these two accounts have provided the inspiration for today's video, where I'm going to be transferring one of my plants from a passive hydroponic setup to a fully hydroponic setup. So that means I'm going to be adding a pump. We're going to be recirculating water and all of that good stuff. Today I'm going to be trying out deep water culture. This is the hydroponic system where you are actively trying to get the roots to grow into a large reservoir of water. So unlike in passive hydroponic, when you are constantly repotting so that you can get the roots above the water line, here you actually want and are encouraging the roots to grow into the water. And how you're going to prevent the roots from rotting or drowning is that there's a pump, and the pump is going to be oxygenating the water, and it's also going to be recirculating the water so that it's, you know, even and the nutrients keeps getting dispersed evenly. I'm going to be doing the single bucket system just because that seems to be like the entry level to hydroponics, and it's also not that big of a commitment. There's only one plant, there's only one bucket, and it's also fairly inexpensive to start to set up. So I've actually already had my plant set up, so I'm going to cut now to that footage. Also, this is very obviously not going to be a tutorial because, you know, I don't know what I'm doing. So let's go on this journey together. The things I have bought. First, this huge box, which you can also see right here because the box came first, so I got excited. Okay, so the base of the whole system is a 5-gallon bucket. So the pack I bought from Home Depot came in a set of 3, which is actually the perfect amount, and I'll tell you why in a second. The second thing I got is the thing that will actually hold the plant. So these are bucket lids. They're made for growing your plants in hydroponics. These I just got today, so I haven't tried this yet, but this is supposed to fit perfectly over this bucket, and then it has a net pot attached. The reason I got these buckets, because these were not the most inexpensive option. The reason I got these buckets is because I was reading the reviews for this lid, and it says that this bucket fits the best on this lid. So this is the moment of truth, and it does. It fits beautifully. Okay, so this is what it looks like. And then obviously you are going to pot your plants into this lid. Okay, the other really important crucial factor is that you need a pump. So this is the pump I bought. This is what it looks like. I got this off of Amazon because this was the pump that was recommended in one of the videos I watched. So yeah, so this pump actually can accommodate 2 buckets. That's why 3 buckets is perfect, because obviously you need to change your water out at some point. So when you're changing your water out, you can just move the plant from the other bucket, place it here so that, you know, you can go dump out the other water. So the buckets, the lid, the pump. Let me show you what the pumps actually look like. So I got excited, so I already started to set it up. Okay, so this is all of the pieces to the pump. So obviously, first of all, you have the black pump itself. This goes on the outside of the pot. And then it comes with this tubing. So if you want to do 2 different buckets, you actually need to cut the tubing that they provide you in half. And it also comes with this thing. This is called an air stone. This is what makes it bubbly. And then the other thing you also need that comes in it is the air valve, which is the orange thing right here that makes the air go, you know, from this into the tubing into the air stone. So how you set it up, it is super easy. So basically, okay, so you would take this tubing, you would cut about 2 inches, an inch and a half, about 2 inches or so of the tubing. You put it onto one side of the air valve. You make sure that the air valve is going away from the machine and not towards the machine. So this is the correct way. Okay, and then you attach the tubing to the other side, and at the end of the other end of the tubing, you attach it to the air stone. So it goes like that. So then you would just attach this onto your machine. You see the 2 holes right there for the 2 different buckets it can accommodate. And you just slip this on. You plug this in, and then this is the control in the back, so you could make it, you know, pump more or less air. Obviously, so now we have to do a little bit of drilling, a little bit of DIY. So all of the tutorials I've watched has recommended that you drill into the bucket, but I am going to be drilling into the lid instead because that makes more sense to me. I'm just going to drill a very, very small hole right here, and then I'm going to feed this tubing through. And then some of the other tutorials, they also drill another hole at the bottom to make a water level indicator, because obviously, you know, you need to check the water level of the plant. And I think that I'm not going to do that today. I will probably do it eventually, but it's not really a necessary step, so I will do it later on, because you also need to buy a couple other different parts for that, including like an elbow and more tubing. So that's going to be a future issue. Okay, and then the other thing I bought is this. This is a TDS meter. It measures the ppm, or the parts per million of your water. So it basically tells you whether or not you're giving your plants too much nutrients. I also bought a calibrator. I've never used either of those things, and I honestly don't even really know what I am supposed to be aiming for when I measure, because all of the information I've had so far with you know, looking at the TDS of your house, or the TDS of hydroponic plants, has been in regards to like vegetables or cannabis. So and I'm trying to grow neither of those things, so we are going to wing it. Okay, so this is a 1/4 inch drill bit, which should fit that tubing, because that's a 1/4 inch tubing, I believe. So I'm going to drill a hole right here. Okay, perfect. Beautiful. The tubing definitely fits. So I'm not going to do this right now though, because I am going to go replant my plant into this first. Okay, so that was like 2 seconds for you, but that was like 2 hours for me. So I ended up also remaking this pole. You remember, this used to be a LECA pole, but the LECA pole sucked. So I just made it into a moss pole. I also extended the pole. You can't see it's out of frame, but now it's about twice as tall as it was before. And then obviously I repotted the plant into this lid net pot. So yeah, so this is the other bucket. It already has water in it, and I'm gonna assume there's about 4 gallons or so of water in here. So very similar to passive hydroponics. When you're just creating the system, you want the water level to go, you know, a little bit into where the net pot is, and then as the roots start to grow longer and longer, you can start decreasing the amount of water a little bit. So yeah, I think this is about 4 gallons of water in this 5-gallon bucket. So I'm going to add my nutrient solution, and I'm also going to add a little bit of Super Thrive. Okay, so that's what it looks like right now. Hey guys, so it's been a week and a half since I transferred this Philadelphia Splendid into this hydroponic system. This is what it sounds like with the pump on, so it's actually quite loud. So this is the pump on at max, like max pumping. Okay, and then I just unplugged it for a second just so that I can talk to you. So I already transferred the water once, and the problem I'm having is that the Fox Farm hydroponics is kind of disgusting in this system. I think it works fine and really well in my passive hydroponic system because it's just a teeny tiny bit of water and the plant pretty much absorbs all of it within a week, versus this is a large amount of water in this bucket and it keeps pumping the air bubbles inside, so the water is always circulating, and so all the sediment inside the Fox Farm nutrients, it gets everywhere. It looks really gross, so I'm gonna lift it for you. Hopefully you would be able to see. So I'm lifting it right now. You can see it on the hose a lot, where a lot of the sediment has kind of clinged to that, and there's a ton of it right where the LECA and the root is, so I really don't want that. I also am losing, or I've lost this leaf completely, and I'm losing this leaf, but this leaf has been like on its way out since before I transferred it, so I'm not too worried about this one. This section I have to keep more of an eye on. So this leaf is just one leaf, and it hasn't looked like it's spread up top to any of the other leaves, so I'm not too concerned. I'm just going to chalk this up to like acclimating to a new system. And also remember, when I transferred it had like the tiniest bit of root rot, but if it spreads to any of the leaves up here, then I would be really concerned, because that might mean that the root rot has spread. So my plan right now is to take this into the bathroom and try to hose off the bottom part really well so that a lot of the sediment comes off. I'm not going to change the water just yet because I just changed it, but yeah. So that's my 1.5 week update for you. Okay, welcome back. So I wanted to give you a little bit of an update. So this plant that I converted, it's now officially been in deep water culture hydroponics for 2.5 months, and I wanted to give you some of my preliminary thoughts. So the very first thing you should know is that it is quite heavy to move the bucket of water whenever I have to go flush out the plant, and you're normally supposed to do it about every 2 weeks, which is like, it doesn't seem like that big of a deal, but it's actually pretty heavy and it's kind of annoying, and sometimes you spill water and it kind of gets everywhere. So I really don't know how many plants I'm going to end up converting into this method of hydroponics. I think that if I, you know, was more serious about hydroponics, I would perhaps try to build out a better system, but I don't know, at this point I think like I'm gonna stick with probably just this one plant in hydroponics and maybe one other plant just to also test it out, and then the rest of my collection can just stay in passive hydroponics as they are currently. Okay, second thing, so I've had to change my nutrients a little bit. If you saw the last clip, I was complaining about how the sediment was getting everywhere. So basically, Fox Farm Big Bloom, which is the second one in the series, that one's made out of organic materials like earthworm castings, and that was just really gross. And so since that clip, I stopped using Big Bloom with this plant. I still use it when I do like my other passive hydro plants, but for this plant I've just been using Fox Farm Grow Big and Fox Farm Buds and Bloom. So these two are not organic. They don't have any kind of like organic materials in them at all, so that has eliminated the problem of the gross materials inside the water. I am definitely going to continue to use the Phosphorus series for my passive hydro plants, but I am possibly going to look into a different nutrients for this plant. I'm not like actively looking right now, but I think that I will eventually change what nutrients I use. A lot of that has to do with, you know, the sediment inside the water, but also because I got one of these things. So this is a TDS meter, which measures it measures like the particles inside your water. So it's a way for you to gauge if you are giving your plants too much nutrients. And I've been giving my plants a whole heck a lot of nutrients. I'm kind of surprised that like nothing was showing signs of distress except for maybe my Maranta. But my Maranta also, since I've scaled back on the amount of nutrients I've been giving it, still has like crispy tip. So I think it just doesn't like tap water. But I got this TDS meter and I found out that the number of, or the amount of nutrients I was giving my plant is quite high. So I've also had to redo a lot of my measurements. I'm going to make a whole separate video about that soon, about what my new mix is for my plants. But for now, if you are using the same mix that I was using, just cut it in half, about there. And then, so my other update for the plant is that I did lose both leaves that I was losing, but since then one new leaf has completely unfurled and one leaf is in the process of unfurling right now. Both of them so far are a little bit smaller than their previous leaves, which I think both has to do with it acclimating to the new setup, but also because I've been scaling down a lot on how much nutrients I give my plants, and I think I might have scaled down too much in comparison to what I was giving it before. So we're trying to find a happy medium right now. In terms of the noise level, it doesn't really bother me. I don't really mind white noise. Sometimes in the morning when I come into my office, I'll just turn down the pump a little bit so it's not pumping as much oxygen into the water, so the noise level is a little bit quieter. And then when I leave, you know, for the day, I'll just turn it back up to max so that it can really oxygenate the water. I'm also thinking about getting a like a pH meter, but the one that's like a stick, because you have to recalibrate the pH of your water quite often. And I feel like my pH measurements aren't very accurate, which doesn't matter too much when it's with the passive hydroponic system. Like how accurate it is doesn't matter that much because the plant pretty much absorbs all the water you give it within a week, versus this plant is sitting inside the water for much longer, and when pH changes as it does throughout the week, I think it affects the plant a little bit more. So that's something I'm also putting on the list to do in the near future. Overall, I'm relatively happy with this setup for this plant so far. I don't think I'll convert it back to passive hydroponics, but I also don't think that I'm going to convert other plants into full hydroponics. I'll probably do an update video for you when I hit the 6-month mark for this plant, but yeah. So that's all I have for you today. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon.